Who here has ever felt like they weren't being listened to? Maybe you felt ignored, that your words were brushed off, or that you were constantly being interrupted. Whatever the situation, it feels horrible when you say something you know deserves to be heard and it's not acknowledged. No one enjoys being talked over, not being able to get a word in edgewise, or having their ideas silently discounted without discussion. It's something that connects us all, and it's certainly true of your customers. Everyone wants to be heard, and that means everyone also needs to listen. Whether you're a store owner, a developer, a designer, a support rep, or all of the above, when a customer is talking to you, they want to make sure you're listening. So the question is, what can you do to ensure that your customers know that you've heard them? First, let's look at store owners. Store owners can listen by outright asking customers for feedback. Questionnaires or surveys are a great way to gain extremely helpful insight into what your customers are thinking and feeling. However, it's not enough to simply ask questions. You need to avoid asking ineffective questions, which will lead to responses that you can't do much with. So, stay away from the following. Leading questions. For example, how would you rate our amazing new website? You don't want to hint, blatantly or otherwise, at an answer within the question. In this case, my question already tells my customer that I already think our website is awesome or amazing, so any other response would be seen as wrong. Next, avoid options that aren't mutually exclusive. What hobbies do you like? Scrapbooking, playing hockey, cooking, reading. What if your customer doesn't like any of those? Even though we all know playing hockey is the right answer? In questions like these, be sure to add an option for other or none of the above. Also, don't use unbalanced scales. Please rate your experience of your last visit. Fair, good, very good, excellent. What if my experience was absolutely horrible? The extremes on the scale need to be balanced opposites, from the worst possible choice to the best, and then the inner options plotted on the scale in the same equal and opposite manner. And lastly, don't ask open-ended questions. How can we improve WooCommerce? It may seem like this is a great question that could garner a lot of fantastic and helpful feedback, but since it's vague and indirect, it'll limit the usefulness of the results received. Instead, ask something that will provide more concrete examples of a specific aspect, like, how can the checkout process of WooCommerce be more user-friendly? Okay, so now that you know how not to ask your questions and you're ready to get some customer feedback, let me run through some simple statistics to help you maximize the results. Surveys sent out on Thursdays and Sundays typically see lower response rates, so take a break on those days. A loyal and/or motivated audience can lead to extremely high response rates, so incentives like coupons can help. And for each question you ask, more people stop answering. So keep your surveys as short as possible and only ask the most important questions. And remember, once the results are in, make sure your customers feel listened to. Perhaps you can send out a newsletter explaining the upcoming changes that you'll be making based on the feedback you received. So now on to developers. Developers can listen by creating and maintaining an ideas board for customers where new features can be requested and voted on. Implementing an ideas board for your business can have two main benefits. One, it's a great way to acknowledge your customers' suggestions as it gives them a forum where their thoughts and opinions are valued. And two, it's a wonderful way to help prioritize the features that will make your products better. WooThemes has implemented an ideas board, and it's been a tremendous tool for us to help keep track of what our customers want for WooCommerce and its many, many extensions. Users are able to submit their suggestions and vote on others. Each account has a maximum number of votes that can be cast to ideas. If an idea is adopted as a feature into our software, or it's rejected, votes are returned to the users that supported that idea. And at any time, a user can reclaim a vote from one idea and apply it to another. If you already have an ideas board in place, or if you're considering implementing one, there is an extremely important aspect to keep in mind. It needs to be maintained and curated. For example, you can merge similar ideas, reject old ideas that didn't garner much support, and update the statuses of those ideas that are under consideration. An ideas board cannot become a place you send customers to when you don't want to deal with their suggestions. Otherwise, you risk the perception that you truly don't care and that you're not interested in listening. Next, let's consider designers. Designers can listen by acknowledging customers' requests while simultaneously educating them that their ideas may not be the best choice for their business. It's important to remember that while you're working on their website, you're the expert in design. Before I worked for WooCommerce, I was an itty-bitty freelance web designer. I remember one client in particular, because she was the one who sent me a whopping 12-page Word document for her About Me text. She emphasized that every decision made in her life, every paragraph in that narrative was necessary to include online. She wanted everyone to know her whole story. However, I knew that putting a 3,000-word autobiography on her website would be pointless. I needed to listen and understand the importance of that story, and at the same time explain that the vast majority of people wouldn't take the time to read it at all. She trusted me, and that was only built after she knew I had read her story, after she knew I had listened. Thankfully, I was able to convince her. She listened to me. The About Me page was only slightly longer than average. I'm sure you can think of similar clients. Just remember, they'll have ideas for their website, and they may even think they know how to reach them. But they've hired you. That was my website. They've hired you, the design expert, to create a solution that accomplishes their main objectives and not necessarily individual requests along the way. If you truly listen, sometimes their words don't add up. And finally, let's take a look at support reps. Support reps can listen by using validation as a tool to help diffuse angry and frustrated customers. Now, validation isn't a tool strictly reserved for people in support. Each and every one of us can learn to harness its power to be a mighty adversary against high-intensity emotions, wherever they come from. Clients, colleagues, spouses. The Oxford English Dictionary defines the verb validate as follows: recognize or affirm the validity or worth of a person or their feelings or opinions. Cause a person to feel valued or worthwhile. Just reading that feels good. Of course, we all want to be valued, that our thoughts and opinions matter, and that our feelings are valid. It feels great when someone actually takes the time to listen. Validation works beautifully because it acknowledges high-intensity emotions. If it's done well, validation works on a subconscious level so that the person being validated simply feels like they've been listened to. Being heard feels good. So, how do you validate? Tap into your empathy. That way, you're able to get an idea of what it must be like to be in their position. Ask yourself how you would feel. and you change your perspective, and you'll understand them better. You can also summarize their feelings and echo them back. For example, if I'm helping to troubleshoot a really tricky issue and it's taking forever, I could say something like, I know that this is extremely frustrating. And another option is to try placing their feelings in a general context by stating that anyone would feel the same way. This helps to normalize what they're experiencing and affirms that their feelings are justified. Yeah, starting a new business is scary for a lot of people. Being able to validate effectively takes practice, especially if you're getting yelled at. But once you've got the hang of it, once you've mastered the skill of it, you'll inevitably see a change in how people respond. At the end of the day, in order to be successful, you either need to offer something unique or offer something better than what's already out there on the market. As competition grows fiercer, something that can help your business stand out from all the others is your ability to listen. As Ernest Hemingway once said, when people talk, listen completely. Most people never listen. Be someone that listens completely. My name is Mindy Postoff. I'm a support ninja for WooCommerce at Automatic. You can find me on Twitter at WooMindy. Thank you.